It's no secret that sales is getting more complicated, particularly when it comes to B2B sales processes, and a complicated economic reality never helps either. Managers usually don't have any time to spare, and more often than not, they just want the bottom line. So that's what we're doing here today, talking to a group of sales leaders to get their bottom line, the biggest pain points, lessons learned, and advice they've collected throughout their years in the field. I'm Jason, Senior Sales Director at Monday.com, and we have some of the top sales executives here with us tonight. We've got Ange McManaman, who is Global Sales Executive and currently the VP of Revenue at Crunchbase. We've got Alejandro Martinez, a Senior Sales Leader at Dropbox. And we've got Mike Villalobos, VP of Strategy at CTag. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure. We've got a few ground rules for what we're doing here tonight. We're tackling a list of conversation points, issues, pain points you're probably familiar with, things like forecasting, silos, prospect experience, really just to name a few. We'll have only a few minutes for each of the topics, so we'll really be squeezing in just your bottom lines. Let's go ahead and get started. First up, time is money. According to research, sales teams really only spend about 30% of their time selling. Curious as to why do you think that is, and how do you fight it on a day-to-day basis?
I feel like we've gotten our own way almost, right? The technology was supposed to make it easier. And then we've created all of these roles to manage the technology, and that's put way too many chefs in the kitchen. Sure. And so to sell an opportunity, to create an opportunity takes a little bit too long now. And so it's really, really important for the sales rep to understand what's actually in their control. It's like when you look at your week, and you look back and you're like, wait, did I actually talk to a customer? Hold on a second, like something has to shift.
Where do you find your role? How much can the rep drive, and where do you find yourself having to kind of provide air cover or come in as the one that kind of gets things unstuck?
It's a balancing act, right? Because on one hand, you want the rep to learn kind of self-sufficiency and also get to know these people that they're collaborating with.
That's big. Yeah.
And be able to have those conversations and give them autonomy and ownership. But at the same time, you need to protect their time. And I think that's where I see myself as protecting or the gatekeeper of their time. It's like, okay, is this taking how many hours? Okay, let me take this off your plate.
Do you think that reps do a great job to figure out the customer's buying process? Because I think that's a time suck in a lot of ways when all of a sudden we get hit with, oh, it's going through procurement and that takes 10 days. And I'm like, you didn't know that at first?
Yeah. What I'm realizing, especially with young managers, is the accountability factor isn't there. And when you're a young manager, it's tough to put your foot down and say, hey, you didn't do X, Y, or Z this week. Why not? Or if you did do it qualitatively, what happened?
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the bigger pitfalls in sales as we train, because we're so focused on the rep and not enough on the manager to hold the accountability factor, but also how to communicate that effectively.
I couldn't agree more. It's hard to teach somebody to hold somebody accountable.
What's your bottom line on getting reps to spend more time selling?
Funnily enough, created the bullshit hour of my team, right? What if actually 80% of your day was what you wanted to do and 20% of your day is what you really didn't want to do and wasn't really sales productive, you know? Let's start focusing on just shoving everything in that hour. And if not, it goes into the next bullshit hour the next day. And so really just honing in on making sure that you're actively, proactively pushing the 80-20 the opposite way.
Yeah. I love that.
I do this every week with my team. It's called Friday Finishers. By Friday, what's getting it done? The Friday Finishers on a Monday really does help everyone, one, verbalize it, and everyone hears it, so you have to be accountable to it.
When a rep's going through that and I'm feeling that energy and I know they're down because of their time, I'm like, 3 days, I want you to write down exactly everything you've done hour by hour. And then just literally look at it and be like, you don't need to do this. I can help you with this. So it's just a time management drill, but I think it really helps when we actually take the time to look at what we're doing. We're like, why are we doing that?
Taking time.
The next topic, forecasts and predictions. Forecasts and predictions, I think kind of the bane of existence of a lot of sales managers. How do you ensure forecasts and predictions are accurate? What types of things throw you off, your reps off?
I think about it 3 different components. Is the math, the science, and the art. The math are the hard numbers, you can't change it, right? 1 + 1 = 2. The science is, well, if you look back at the last 6 months, what do those trends look like? You're probably going to get your run rate here. And then the art, that's the hard part, right? How do I get to know a rep well enough to know if he's aggressive or conservative in their forecast. And they're telling me, no, these next steps are accurate, right? And, and so I think about it that way, and I try to teach my peers and a lot of the AMs that kind of thought process, right? But you still have to understand your buffers, right? Because you're also managing up.
Yeah.
And I try to give myself grace, I try to give others grace, because at the end of the day, even the biggest publicly traded company misses their forecast one way or another.
I like can't agree with you more on the art. For me, my whole career has always been figuring out individual and teams, what percentage I take off of it. There are actually some AEs that under forecast, which is so surprising to
very
me.
conservative.
Yeah. And I'm
Yes,
like,
yes.
you're my best sales rep.
Yes,
You're gonna
best
close
ones
it.
are
Your win rate's insane. Like, you're gonna close it.
Curious, what's your favorite question to go to in a pipeline that challenges a rep around the way that something's forecasted or the way that they're thinking
Why do you think
about
that's
a
gonna
deal?
close?
How are we gonna get it to close?
Why hasn't it moved?
Why isn't it moved? It's a good one. I think mine is similar. It's that, but it's the inverse. Why won't this close by that date, right? And then I want to see them hedge against that risk.
That's the bane of my personal like sales manager existence, because I realized like this is 30% in the pipeline. It's weighted clearly, but like this is weighting us down now. It's 4 months overdue. Yes. Like, what are you holding on to here?
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause you hold on to these emotional attachments to some deals because you have a great rapport or whatever it may be, and it takes longer or it doesn't close, and you can't take it personally.
So bottom lines, thinking from a manager perspective, what's the biggest thing to become a better forecaster as a team?
Know the math, the art, and the science.
Yeah, I like those pillars.
Yeah, really define it for yourself and just practice that every quarter.
Asking for help and just knowing where you win and where you lose a deal, it can really help.
Be sober with the art. If we're going 3-4 months in overdue, you just gotta cut bait sometimes.
Sober with the art.
Yeah.
Love it. And next question is around CRM pain points. I think if you ask sales reps, sometimes their number one villain is a CRM. What are the things that drive you insane, drive the reps insane when it comes to the actual task of working with the CRM?
Update your sales. Just do it. Just get
all
in there
say
and do
amen.
it.
Hallelujah.
That's it. I mean, what else is it?
That is one of the hardest things as a manager. It's just like, why is that close date still there? Why is the forecast not accurate? Why do you think that's the issue? Why don't you think that reps take that time to make the forecast accurate, to have the right notes coming into a pipeline review?
I have no idea. Sorry. I just think you need to set time on your calendar every day or every week to just update it.
I see both sides of the coin, right? Especially when it comes to updating notes. I mean, remembering when I was a sales rep, I was the one with the notebook because that was my source of truth.
And then flipping that to a CRM is harder.
Right, yeah. One, you think you're doing double work. Two, you feel like there's a lack of trust in the data. Then maybe it feels like you're moving slower putting it onto the CRM in terms of maybe making things a little too customizable and, requiring a little too much oversight.
There's some terribly built CRM.
Yeah.
Both out of the box, but more on the customization side.
And so you have to really make a connection with the rep in that aspect, in that sense of saying, hey, here's how this connects to you, right? How does the bigger picture align with your day-to-day? How does creating visibility for us and for the people above me give you a sense of accomplishment within your role? And how is that going to pay you dividends forward, right?
I have the brief that I have to take the flight time, put it here. The KPI, put it here. There's no trigger that actually
Piecemealing it after.
quite literally when I've already done it, right? So not only are you making me do it once, I now have to do it 2, 3, 4 times in a cumbersome way and piecemeal it. And the lack of customization or trigger or automation for that matter in a tech forward industry becomes frustrating.
So if we get to the bottom line on CRM and the relationship that our reps have with it, the relationships we have with it, I think I want to take it from the angle of like, what's one thing that we can be doing or CRMs could be doing to make reps want to work with
Just
the
more
CRM?
automation.
Simplify, simplify, simplify.
Don't do it twice.
I think it falls both on the CRM, but I think we have to take some responsibility in ensuring the CRM is set up the right way. We have the right fields in the CRM. We're acquiring the right fields at the right time to make them believe that this is something that is helping them. And then hopefully they'll at least call the CRM a friend, right?
Cousin.
There you go. Yeah. Next topic, coaching to win. A lot of people say defense wins championships. I like to say coaching wins championships. What's your best professional tip on How are you building winning teams day in and day out?
For me, hiring people that just have that grit and that tenacity and that, may or may not have sold a similar product, may or may not have sold SaaS, but wants to learn and wants to win. And like, you can't take that away from anybody. If you have good coaches around them, then they're going to do well, right?
I think something that's really difficult in recruiting is how do you screen for grit? Like, are there questions that you have that you're just like, I see it? Or like, how do you actually find that trait when you're only spending an hour or two?
I love to ask what's their biggest career mistake. And then I want to hear like, what's the one thing that you are the best at? And what's the one thing that you need to work on?
You can do sales for 20 years one way or do it 20 different ways. It kind of feeds into what you're saying of like, do you have the grit to break yourself down and rebuild, whether it be year, quarterly, whatever it may be? But the process also flips on us. Previous cycles, I had my own company, an entrepreneur, where I really, really messed it up. I didn't have an onboarding process that was good enough. And people were flopping left and right that were great sales reps. And you said this earlier, look in the mirror. And I said, I guess as well, like be sober about whatever the process is. But like, do you have an outline that molds to most, maybe not all, but most? If not, recalibrate.
How'd you find that? How did you realize it was you, not them?
Failure, man. Yeah, it's failure, right?
We often hire and ask questions that are part of 80% of the job, which in reality, we should be hiring for the 30% that's going to get them to 100% attainment, right? If you think about it, there's a playbook. Anybody should be able to follow the playbook and get to 80%. Can you ask the right questions to get to 110%? And that leads to trusting who you hire. Sometimes we hire for tomorrow because we want this sales organization to look like
High
something.
growth, right?
I actually can't expect an answer from you now. I have to put the trust in you because I hired you because you're smarter than me to do this role.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I vetted out in the interview process.
I already know what all three of your answers are going to be, but when it comes to coaching, when it comes to building a winning team, bottom line, what is it for you guys?
Grit for me, 100%.
I mean, if we're going to pick one, curiosity.
You took mine, so I'm gonna say humility.
And if you can hit all three of those in a candidate, I think you have the trifecta of somebody you can coach. We could probably talk about coaching all night.
And traits all night.
So moving on.
The next topic is breaking silos.
Silos become inevitable in organizations. We've got to work with a lot of different teams. How do you break those silos, especially as your organization grows? How do you really build that bond and work with other departments? Mike, let's start with you.
I think you force them to be conjoined, to be honest. You can't move forward without the other. And it gets back to a CRM system, right? The health and hygiene of that is contingent on the last person passing the baton. So you make it a baton system where I can't move forward unless you hand me the right baton or in the right manner, and I can't run fast if it's not actually clean, right? So that can be the salesperson to a success manager or a planner to a salesperson. And that is the way we've approached it. And to be honest, it's really helped us in terms of accountability for each other, but making sure that we're all understanding that we're all part of the same flywheel in the same sales process.
What about when it's less of a relay race and more of, go back to rugby, you talked about earlier, more of a team dynamic where you have to work together as a unit to get something done? How do you break down the individuality there and get them to kind of gel?
You goal them in the same way.
Goal them the same way.
Right? Instead of goaling someone in a CSM fashion based on retention, you actually look at revenue as well, upsells, resells, because they're incentivized to help the salesperson get that second, third, fourth deal.
Yeah.
Right?
First, you have to set the culture, right? You have to lead by example. If you're going to start an initiative, you're going to loop in other people and you're going to make that a thing. And it really requires people to just be very clear about who's doing what, when are you going to do it, right? Can I look at you and say, you're going to own this, and you say, yeah, I got this. So it really is a matter of making sure everything on paper is clear and concise. Like, hey, you're responsible for this, you're responsible for that. We're going to meet on a regular basis to talk about X, Y, and Z. This is what we expect.
This question is really hard depending on the size of the company you're at.
Right.
It's a lot easier to break down silos if you're in a small, we're a 200 person company, right? I can figure out a way to do it. Sure. At a larger company, it's quite hard. For me, it's like doing everything that I can to get with the leader of this, where the silo is and where the pushback is, and like earning trust and breaking it down that layer first before my reps can really feel it.
Have you found it easier or more difficult to be in a smaller or larger environment?
I love a smaller. I want to be able to like impact change quickly. There are pros of a big company, don't get me wrong. But I think sometimes startups need people like us that want to do that, need to grow. And
Grit.
and that's that grit. And it's just being able to like, you see a process that isn't working and it's like, let's change it. And we're leaders. We have to do that hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we get to bottom line and breaking down silos, what's the biggest advice you would give somebody that's struggling there, or what's the biggest thing you do to handle it?
Set the example and open the doors.
So align people the right way, and I promise you, it usually pans out the right way.
I would say push yourself to be uncomfortable.
I agree with that. It's concise too.
There we go. She hit the bottom line. And our next question to our sales leaders is really around prospect experience. I think we all agree clients have to be our number one priority at the end of the day. We're all overseeing sales teams. They've got revenue targets that are monthly. We've got revenue targets that are quarterly. We've got to drive to those targets. How do we ensure that our clients are having a good experience with our reps and aren't feeling the daily pressures?
If we know what they need, it shouldn't feel like selling, right? And so how long it take for us to get to know that customer, right? How much research should we do? And there's two aspects to this, right? We have the AE role where you're hunting that new business. You have a customer that maybe on the AM side you've been managing for 5 years. How do you build that rapport to first and foremost get the permission to ask for an upsell? Do you know the timing of when that upsell should be happening, right? Because timing is everything, especially nowadays. Like, are they in the season to buy? Is this part of their buying cycle today? And then ultimately, does the customer have trust in us that we're actually doing a service to them, not a disservice? Do we have that rapport that we've built, and do we have that previous impact that we've proven out that says, you know, when I make a recommendation, it's not just because I need to hit my quota. It's
what's in your best
actually
interest.
because you can use this and it will actually benefit your business, and the ROI is greater than the attainment to quota.
How do you align on that right timing?
You can't be pedantic in the way you approach it. It's not like at month 2 you do X, at month 3 you do Y. Sometimes that's not how that works, right? If the client shows a success at a certain point, then you have a chance to actually come in and say, by the way, we can boost productivity, we can boost a KPI, we can boost whatever it may be, because you're showing these signs.
Yeah, and there's another side to that too. We often think, oh, sellers are just focused on their quota, but sometimes we believe in the relationship so much that we kind of put it on a pedestal, and then we just only focus on the customer experience, and then we're like, it's not the right time.
Yeah.
It's not the right time.
Yeah.
And 3 quarters in, it's still not the right time.
Yeah. I would sum it up as like context is king, right? If you can bring relevancy to why you're talking about something with a client, how are you thinking about it?
All right, spicy take. Shocker.
Yes.
So I think we need to think about the prospect customer experience differently. Maybe it's going back to like old school, but I'm in this new era of thinking about like just visiting clients and like doing more face-to-face and building trust in a way that we haven't done it in the last like certainly 4 years. And I think we need a shift a bit. It doesn't work all the time, and it is costly, and some people don't want to meet us, right? But I do think there's something to be said about a face-to-face meeting and like just that trust.
Yeah, you can really win if you're now taking advantage of
You can win,
getting
or you
outside.
can know you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Either
Much
one.
higher.
Like, I'd rather know that in front of my face and quicker than just not returning my emails.
All right, so bottom lines, how can we improve, or how do you ensure the client experience as they go through your sales processes? Mike, let's start with you.
If it's not the right time, don't do it. But to the same point, if you feel that it is the right time, don't be scared to do it.
I think you need to learn when to zoom in and when to zoom out, right?
Think outside the box on ways to build and maintain trust.
Our next topic is sales skills. When you're hiring a sales manager instead of a rep, that person that's in charge of the coaching, what's the biggest skill that you look for?
I think about the things that like I needed when I was a sales manager, first-time sales manager. That shit's hard, especially when you get promoted.
How do
you're
I
like,
sell?
"What
How do I teach this?
What do I do?" Yeah, we're talking about something hiring now, right? So it's definitely has been there, done that, and has hopefully performed really well. And then the curiosity of like wanting to just get better and drive people's performance. Like there's something to be said about a top sales rep, which I know you were, and then transferring into being a leading manager, they're different. It's different skills. Yeah, sure. Like we both want to win, but there are technical different skills.
When ICs ask, how do I become a manager? What does it take to become a manager? It's not always being number one. Can you tell me why you're great? Is what you do repeatable? Can you take that and make 8 other people you, or is what you do so special that you're the unicorn? Like you can't be repeated. And so you either need to change the way you think about sales and the process that you bring to sales, or you got to stay in the IC seat and just continue to be the best of the best.
So the question is this, do you want 8 B+ players or 2 A+ players?
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm going B+.
All day.
All day.
Take B-. I'll take C+.
So if you're hiring an external manager, right, you're not bringing them up internally. How do you screen for that, or what traits are you looking for?
One of the biggest challenges that we have in management is empathy, and the fact that the art is such a big thing. Let's keep it a buck. You can't fake the funk. You have to figure out how to empathize with somebody. And if you can't manage that, you will lose talent.
Yeah.
And maybe someone like wants the Razzie and like, yo, pump me up. Or someone just wants someone to like be there, be a therapist. and we've all been there, right?
That's, you have to know your audience, right? Know your reps. Like one's going to want that. One's going to want something
And
else.
that's exactly it.
And you have to be able to give both.
I think when you're looking at a sales manager, first and foremost, over the past, I guess I would even say 10 years, no one actually gets sales management training. So all of a sudden it's like, well, figure it out. And yet maybe you have that self-awareness to learn how to be better. You know, maybe you're telling me things that over the last 3 years, I've listened to this podcast, read this book, applied this methodology, really taken ownership in these initiatives. And it shows that that's somebody that wants to be a leader. And you really want someone that's going to lead by example and people are going to follow.
And trust, because they're going to have conversations that are difficult, personal.
And so that's what I look for too, is ownership.
If you have the mentality that you work for them, everything is going to go amazing. The minute you think your rep works for you, you're done.
Right.
Let's do this one short and sweet. Bottom line, one word.
Oh boy.
If you are hiring a sales manager, what is the one trait you are looking for? I'll go. People first attitude.
Curiosity.
Inspiration.
Empathetic. There we go. Moving on. And our next question is around the future of sales. AI in sales is a big topic these days. I'm curious, how are you all using AI, if at all, in your processes today? Or how do you see AI changing the way in which reps work?
Whether it's summarizing company research or summarizing your calls or giving you different types of insights. We are actually using AI, and we have been for a while. I think now when you directly decide, hey, okay, how do I leverage this to make my life better? You have to understand, is this going to make me faster? Is this going to make my output better, right? Or am I just doing it to do it? You know, it shouldn't be a time suck or a time waste. And that's really what you have to focus on.
We're getting too caught up in AI as a amorphous thing, and the reality is it can be a lot of things. It's the new version of search. I think it embraces creativity, increases productivity, but it has its own hallucinations. So you need to learn how to use it in a way to inspire your own creativity going through it. I don't think it's replacing anybody yet. I'm kidding.
I do think it can replace some. I think we are far off still.
It may reduce the size of it. It just becomes more of a better way to respond, better way to automate, better way to be creative, and a jump off point. But it will never replace the human interaction, which we all crave. We're a communal people, so you have to operate in that sense.
Keyword you said is inspire.
Yes.
And I think we can inspire sales process ease, it can inspire efficiency, it can inspire a lot if we use it the right way.
Yep.
And then we become more of full sales cycle person, right? You're qualifying, you're discovering, you're demoing, you're closing, and you're onboarding. You're finally like really efficient, but you're doing a couple more tasks, if you will.
Correct.
But inspire is really where it's at, because it can't do it. It has to like add to, like help. It's not trying to be an add-on. It's trying to be like the end-all be-all. And it's just not. That's not. It's
not.
I guess if you're thinking of it from a bottom line take, maybe where is the next place you see AI making the biggest impact in your sales processes?
I hope AI and actually get us back to, selling 80% of the time instead of 20% of the time.
Love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I hope that's the place we get to be, where it fosters more human connection than us behind a screen typing away what we actually want to do.
You hear that, CRMs? All right, let's have some fun. There's a lot of memes about sales. There's a lot of memes about CRM. We have gathered some of the internet's finest, and this is where I need your help. We're going to show you a meme, and we want to know, did the person that created it nail it, or did they completely miss the mark on the meme? First meme. That is quite the chalkboard. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how you use a CRM.
Crushed it.
Yeah, nailed it.
Nailed it?
Got him.
Got him? I think so as well. Just got to enter data into the CRM and finished. How do we feel?
I mean, nailed it.
Nailed
but-
it. Depends.
Yeah.
You could have done it faster.
Exactly.
Let's be real. Mike. Yeah. Use a CRM perfectly. Still doesn't help himself.
100%.
Account executives trying to understand the SDR notes on a lead.
For me, would nail it if it said customer success, trying to understand notes.
I agree with that 100%.
So that-
SDRs, you're doing a damn good job at it.
Exactly.
Yes, keep doing you. That's a great CRM. I wish I knew how to use it.
That's me every time I start a new job.
Sales reps updating data in the CRM. Back to you, Mike. Duplicates. The biggest pain point you mentioned around CRM. What do you think?
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Why search for an account when you can create a new one?
Sales reps after 6 months using the new CRM. I don't understand our CRM. And at this point, I'm too afraid to have.
That's like when you have Excel experience on your resume, but you can't do formula.
That's three-headed dragon. Sales pitch demo call CRM update. Nailed it?
Almost big. No.
I gotta say, I hate to say it in hot take. Sometimes I feel like the demo calls look like that. So thank you. The CRM update could use a facelift. That's for sure. All right, you can't have the internet without cats. When Q4 ends tomorrow and you forget to update your deals in the CRM. Frankly,
No, because they've been reminded 15 times.
I'm going to say that you don't get paid unless CRM's right.
also, dude, if the end of Q4 is tomorrow, I don't care. Close the damn deal. I don't care what the CRM says. Happy New Year's. Let's move on. Mike, Alejandro, Ange, incredible stuff. I appreciate the thoughtfulness in your answers, the tactfulness in your answers, the things that people can take away from this. I think it's so meaningful for people to be able to hear from leaders like yourself. So thank you for your time tonight. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to Monday for having us. This was really fun.